I'm Grace Trafton of KMVT15. Our guest today, Greg Johnsrud, is a passionate musician. He not only is a talented composer, but he also records his own music at home. Let's meet him. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Grace. It's a pleasure to be here.
First, tell me about your musical background. How did you get started?
Well, back in the mid-50s, there was always music playing around the house. My father was playing the big band music of Glenn Miller and Benny Goodman and the Dorsey Brothers. I also had an older sister, and in the late 50s I was exposed to Elvis Presley, the Everly Brothers, and Ricky Nelson. Then the 60s came with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and my friends got me into the rock and blues genre of music. And then a friend of mine would show me how to play a few chords on a guitar, and the next thing I know, I figured, oh, I can play along with my favorite records. And then I also would pay attention to musicians when they would play live. I used to go to the Fillmore West and Winterland in San Francisco and see the live acts in the 60s for only $3.
Wow, that was a while back then.
Yes.
So when did you start composing your own music?
That's a good question, Grace. I didn't start composing music till I was in my late 40s. Why? I don't know. I would just, before I would always just play cover stuff from other bands, but when I reached my mid-40s, all of a sudden, all these ideas just started popping into my head. So it's never too late to compose music, and I'm still composing all the time. I have probably 10 new songs in my head right now.
Wow, that's terrific. Now, I understand that you also have a band. Tell us about the band.
Yes, well, there's 4 of us, and now there's 3 because the other one's doing professional recording for us. He has his own studio.
Great.
And we got together back in the late 70s, and we worked on original material, and then later on I played in another cover band, and then we're back together again, and the band is called Ayges, A-Y-G-E-S, and it's all original material, and we're having a ball.
So how would you characterize the type of music?
Oh, anywhere from rock to ballads to folk music, and it's very tasteful, and we have a good chemistry. The lead singer would write the songs and strum and play the rhythm guitar. I would come up with bass arrangements, lead guitar arrangements, keyboard arrangements, and some backing vocal arrangements. And so even the drummer writes songs too.
Wow.
So we have a lot of material to choose from.
That's really impressive. Why don't we listen to one of your clips?
Oh, thank you.
Tell me about that.
Well, that was a tribute to Mozart. I've always liked the golden age of classical music, so I thought, oh, let me compose a song about that, and I did.
Great. That was very nice.
Thank you.
Now, there's a wide variety of music out there, and I know that your favorites are rock and blues, right? What are some of your other favorites?
Well, as I got older, Grace, I got into Celtic music, soft jazz, bluegrass, folk, and traditional Chinese music.
Traditional Chinese music?
Yes.
Now that's really unusual because I know that the Chinese music is on a 5-tone scale, and it sounds pretty foreign to Western ears. You know, you have to develop a taste for it. How did you happen to get into Chinese music?
Well, I've always liked the Asian culture, and I figured out that they use a pentatonic scale where you just hit the sharps and flats on the piano or keyboard, and you get this wonderful Asian-sounding music. And I actually had Asian instruments, especially the Chinese zither, pronounced the gu zheng, into my keyboards, and then I came up with some very nice Chinese compositions, and I even made my own CD of Chinese music.
You did? My goodness, that's really impressive. Was that a long process?
Actually, no. It probably took me just a couple of weeks to do it.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm really amazed because very few Westerners can do that with Chinese music without having, been listening to it since childhood.
Well, one of the nicest compliments, my wife is from Taiwan, and some of her friends were surprised too that a Caucasian person could compose Chinese music, and they really liked it.
Now, you've been recording your music at home. How did you get started doing that, and what is the process?
Well, back in 1997, my friend and I just were looking into digital recorders, and we each bought a digital recorder, and we each bought some keyboards, and every Saturday I would go up to his home, and we'd compose a brand new song every week. And we learned how to use the digital recorders and laying down different tracks. We'd lay down guitar tracks and keyboard tracks and bass tracks, and before you know it, we had a song.
So let's listen to another clip of your music. Wow, that was really different than the first clip that we heard. Tell us about this one.
Well, I was influenced by a guitar god named Jeff Beck, and I tried to emulate him the closest I can, but it's very hard to do. And that song was called The Big Bang. That was just a sample of where I was showcasing my lead guitar. And I actually did that in 2 takes.
Wow. That's very impressive. Do you play any other instruments besides guitar?
Yes, I play some mandolin, some bass, some keyboards and piano, and attempting a little harmonica as well.
Wow. So you're a man of many talents.
But I can't read a note of music.
Really? You can't read any music?
No, not whatsoever.
Have you attempted to learn, or you don't need to learn?
I should learn, but I figure I can still work around that.
So you don't feel the need to. So what are some of the recent advancements in audio recordings?
Boy, that's a change. It's come a long way. Before it was reel-to-reel recorders and then cassettes, and if you made a mistake, you had to rewind all the way to the beginning again, and it wasted a lot of time. Now with digital and some of the software programs you can get today, you just press a button and you're back to the start again. And there's a lot of good things about editing with the new software programs. It's very good. And originally the digital recorders started out with 8 tracks. They jumped to 24 tracks. So you can insert a lot of different instruments and vocals on there, and the sound quality is excellent.
So what's the most challenging, some of the most challenging things you have to do to record music at home?
Well, you need to give your ears a rest, because sometimes I could be in my little studio for 8 hours a day, and sometimes you might listen to something one way one day, and then when you go back to listen to it the next day, well, it doesn't quite sound the same because your ears can get tired, and especially if you're recording drums, you should take a break about every 45 minutes.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, so the drums are hard on your ears.
Yes,
huh?
they are. But with the other instruments, you could go maybe 4 hours without taking a break.
Really? Wow, that's really interesting because I'm not a musician, so all this is very, very interesting. So let's listen to another clip of yours.
Okay.
Name of this?
That's called For the Love of Jasmine, and that's one of the songs where I'm using the Chinese Zer0.
Oh. And how did you learn how to play the zither?
I don't know how to play the zither. I actually use my keyboards because I have a board that I put up into my keyboards, and I have over 250 different Asian instruments, and I'll put on my headphones and just come up with new melodies all the time by hitting the sharps and flats.
My goodness, so that's quite a few choices to make.
Well, sometimes that's another problem you have. Sometimes you'll be spending, hours just listening to the right instrument that you want to use, so you have to practice a lot.
So now if somebody wants to start recording music, in their own homes, what advice can you give to them to get started?
Well, first of all, they should go on the internet and check out the different sites of all the different companies that offer products for recording, whether it be a digital recorder or software. And the one good thing is there's a lot of software out there that will fit any budget. And they should also go to a music store to check out and ask questions. There is a large chain music store out there that actually offers free classes for some of the music software out there, and I actually took some of these classes. They would have them every Saturday morning.
Really?
And then if the musician is serious enough, they can post their music on SoundCloud, and people can review their music and leave comments.
Wow. That sounds wonderful. So do you do that on a regular basis?
I myself don't do it that much, but I encourage any young musician to go out there and do that. And there's a lot of other companies out there, if they want to pay a nominal fee, it's not that expensive where you can pay monthly or yearly. They'll actually give you airplay, and then people can download the music, and then you'll get a royalty for that.
So any other advice you care to give?
I would tell them to just practice hard and diligently and look into it, look at all the different venues that they have out there, and also to perform live. That's very important to have a following as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, where do you play your gigs?
Well, we used to play parties and barbecues and talent shows every once in a while, but we're getting a little too old to be doing that. So that's the one beauty of recording at home. I can actually record tracks at my house and send them up to my friend via Google Docs.
Ah, wonderful. How about your children? Did you influence your children in music?
Yes, they all heard the 60s bands, and all of them are musicians.
Oh, wonderful.
And my youngest son plays many instruments. I have a daughter that's wonderful on keyboards, and I have my oldest son, he can play guitar, and they can't read music either.
Well, it's been so fascinating, Greg. Thank you so much for being with us today. I've learned a lot.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you.